Ahoy, ladies and gents. How are you doing? Welcome to the BBC Spews. It's the 9th of January 2023. Hope all's well in your neck of the woods. Crikey, there's already nearly 100 of you in. So you're not all getting a name check. I'll do the bottom half though. Des is in now then. Whiskey Straight Al, MP, Davy Boy the Codhead, Andrew Floyd, Kate's in. Thanks for moderating. Two-Tone, New Fish, Catherine, Scouse Obi. One of the only sensible Scousers. Although, no, there's a couple now. I've been getting messaged by a few of late. I suppose only 65% of your deplorable city is infested with communist ideologues. So welcome. Holly, how are you doing? Jeff Wedden, Patriotic Brit, and Alan Lloyd. Who else have I missed? Des Ellis, Dave Ferguson, Trevor Rapley, Angry Squid, Ragnar, how are you doing? And Jason Timothy Wells. Right, that'll do you. I'm not going to discuss Prince Harry at length today because I'm going to have to make yet another video about that. I'm genuinely astounded at some of the insane accusations that he's made, though. I think it's been worse than anybody possibly imagined, really. When I seen the initial comment he made on 60 Minutes when he was talking to Anderson Cooper out here, it didn't seem too bad. But looking at the more recent videos, specifically the ones he made in the UK, I'm genuinely astounded at some of the things he's come out with. There was a piece about him having a pop at Camilla, which is just shocking, really, because it's not like... I think one of the reasons Camilla stands out on her own, really, is she makes a mockery of this claim that he makes, is that there was a special sort of resentment held against me again. Because if you look back at it, I mean, a lot of people don't seem to remember Kate got a lot of shit when she first started, didn't she? If you have a poke about online and look for some early press when Kate first started getting serious with William, Kate got a lot of shit as well. She was prone to arguing and sort of speaking out of touch, basically. And I think somebody obviously took her to one side and said to her, listen, there's rules and regulations when you're a member of the royal family. At the end of the day, you might not want to talk to the unwashed, smelly peasants on the streets, but they are paying you wages, essentially. So there's decorum and there's a way of doing things. And I think that she got took to one side, and instead of doing what the arrogant, narcissistic spunk trumpet from Hollywood did, she actually took the lessons on board and said, oh, yeah, maybe I can learn something from my elders. But Kate and Camilla got massive amounts of shit. And I think that that's what belies the lie, doesn't it? When you see this claim that me again, Mardy arse, got some sort of special mistreatment from the press, if you actually have the IQ of a pork pie and can remember something from more than a couple of years ago, you haven't got the memory retention of a drunk goldfish, you can remember Camilla and Kay getting plenty of shit off the media. Camilla got absolutely tortured for about 10 years. So it's complete nonsense. And this is what... I mean, I don't know. You can't just pull percentages out of your arse. So I'm not going to try and give a numerical figure, but what I would say is I think it's obvious from anyone that pays attention that the vast majority of the British public do not support Prince Harry and Mardy arse. Almost nobody I know is like, oh, no, the sound. You know what I mean? Like, I've still got large friend groups back home and family. And you never talk to anyone who's like, oh, yeah, Prince Harry's sound is a fucking pound. Prince Harry's sound is a pound and the media are all villains. Plus, the general public knows that the media are a bunch of twats. It's not like we love journalists. I mean, I've got journalists. If there's a pecking order, I would put journalists somewhere beneath rat and somewhere above cockroach. Like, I'm not a big fan of the media. Journalists are worms, and the general public knows it. But they know when they're getting the piss took out of them. And the worst aspect of that lie is what, to use a phrase that the woke love, what Meghan loves using this one, doesn't she? Gaslighting. I hate the term gaslighting because it's another one from the woke lexicon, but that is the definition of gaslighting, isn't it? It's trying to convince you that you're insane, basically, is what gaslighting is. It's trying to make you question your own eyes and ears, what you know. And Meghan and Harry, degenerate pond life that they are trying to make the general public question what they know to be true. And that is that we know that they were wildly popular for years because everybody wanted to see new blood in the family. And the turnout for the wedding was colossal. And the whole fucking Royal Mile was like decked out with Union Jacks. And there was literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people went out for the royal wedding. And there was just a praise for Mardias and the Ginger Mog. And it was only in the months and years that followed, specifically a few big high-profile stories about them, when people started turning against them. And then really, you could have rode all of that, really. You could have rolled with the punches and just accepted the fact that you're unpopular. But the final nail in the coffin was the playing of the race card. That was the one incident that really did it. When a few of those royal staffers came out and said, actually, Meghan's a bit of a bitch, and she acts like she's on Hollywood Boulevard. She can just treat people like shit, whereas you're not a Hollywood. Angelina Jolie makes her own money, right? If she wants to be a bitch, she's allowed to be. Here, you work for us. The general public pay your wages and bought your £290,000 dress, and they expect something in return. And even then, she could have done a regain and got back on top of the rope and said, oh, yeah, sorry. It's all new to me. I was a little bit caught by surprise. I didn't fully understand all the rules and the regulations. Please teach me. But instead, the second they started getting slagged off, they just went, oh, yeah, well, you're all cunts. Oh, yeah, it's you. It's not me, it's you, British public. And then these people that were all royalists suddenly turned into jilted wives and husbands, and they got very, very, very angry about it. And I did it. I wasn't against Meghan Markle, and I actually actively like Prince Harry. 10 years ago, if you asked me what I thought of the royal family, I'd tell everyone what I told anyone who used to ask me in the United States when I was having a pint, and someone said, what do you think of the royal family? I'd tell them what I always said, which was, the general public, anyone aged under about 50, isn't a hardcore dyed-in-the-wool royalist. The vast majority of us are just don't rock the boat, middle-of-the-road conservatives who think that, I don't particularly love the royal family, but you might as well keep them because it's worked all right for the last 1,000 years, so why worry about it? That was my position. And I met Harry briefly when I was doing my OPTAD training on my second Afghan deployment, because 40 Commando was out of alignment with the rest of the brigade, and we went with an army brigade, and he seemed like a nice fella. He was popular with all the lads and the officers. They said, yeah, considering he's a royal, he's actually a pleasant enough chap, and he seems easy enough to rub on with. I remember the Chief Clerk of 40 Commando took the piss out of him, saying he never gets showered because he made some comment about it when he bumped into him. He said, oh, you've just got off the plane, Harry, do you want to come down here? I'll take you where you can go and get Adobe. And Prince Harry was like, no, it's all right. I showered before I got on the plane. He was like, oh, yeah, I forgot you're in the army. You only do it once a fortnight. So nobody hated him. It's all a self-inflicted wound, and he's just crying about nothing. So he's a wanker, is the short version. I'm going to make a longer video about that on another occasion because I need to speak a bit more on it. He's just a fucking worm. Absolute maggot, and I hate him, and I hate his wife, and I think it's perfectly logical and reasonable. I reserve the right to hate Prince Harry and his fucking lying, two-faced, spunk Bowser wife. I'm allowed to do that. This is still a free country, isn't it? I don't have to, but I know they're trying to push state-mandated politeness now, but what they're going to do, state-mandated friendship. Do I have to want to be his best mate as well now? No, I'm allowed to think he's a cunt. I'm allowed to think he's a lying ginger worm, and I despise his fucking dirty, sneaky, fanny like an axe wound wife. I don't like her, and I don't like him, and that's fine, isn't it? Maybe it's not. Maybe they can just ban me off YouTube because I don't like Prince Harry. Probably. Silicon Valley seemed to work for the pair of twats. They only live down the road in Montecito, which isn't too far away from where I live. Went through a drive-through earlier the week, actually. It was insufferably posh. They don't even have like a downtown area. They've just got loads of gigantic mansions with a road running through it. It's a weird place. See, this is the thing, Mr. C21. I can't be arrested for jokes because, fortunately, Bootneck fled the UK. Like, he copied Peter Hitchens' advice and ran away. I'm an asylum seeker in America. So I can't be arrested for jokes. Good, that, innit? I'm not trying to have a little gloat there, but I've made the point. Like, Hitchens was right about that, in my view. I'm black-pilled, and I think you can't fix the issue. But no, I can't be arrested for jokes because I'm in America. But you can. Sucks to be you, lads. Sucks to be. Sorry. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to gloat. I've also got a gun in my bedroom. Good, eh? Again, probably that is of less use because the coppers around here have all got fucking AK-47s, and I've only got a handgun. But yeah, in the United States, we are. I'll agree that we're not a free country either. None of us are. But at least in America, you can't be arrested for telling jokes. You can in England. Fucking hell, in England, you can be arrested for polite disagreement. Have you seen some of the things people have been nicked for in England? There was one doing the rounds on Twitter lately, actually, about some bloke who got a letter saying, you're not being charged with anything and it's entirely voluntary, but if you don't get yourself to the police station in the next half hour, we're going to kick your shitter in. Does anybody see that? I don't know exactly what the story was, but it was really weird. It was like, you're not being arrested and you haven't broken the law, but if you don't turn up at the fucking police station in the next 2 days, we are seriously going to fuck you up. So that's weird. That's weird. I think in England, the legal side of things has got so ridiculous in the United Kingdom. I don't think a judge could tell you what's what. Like, it's completely convoluted and backwards. I don't even know what's going on. Makes no sense at all. You haven't got freedom of speech. It basically seems like in England, the sort of two-tiered policing's got that bad that essentially, if you break the law but you're left-wing, they'll let you off. And if you don't break the law and you're right-wing, they'll find some trumped-up charges for you. I mean, the best example I've ever seen was that, do you remember when the Football Lads Alliance had a protest a few years ago? And one of the blokes had a piss in the street, which, whilst not very, I mean, I'm not advocating pissing in the streets, but we've all done it, right? It's something of a British tradition. If you're caught short and you're between the boozers, as long as you don't get your cock out the front of a primary school, like, people aren't too bothered about it. If you make any attempt to be slightly discreet, people go, yeah, fair enough. Just nip into an alley and have a piss. And this bloke had a piss on the street somewhere near a fucking plaque from some copper who died in the line of duty or something. And he got jailed for it. They said, oh, yeah, you were desecrating this man's plaque. And he was like, A, I wasn't pissing on the plaque. I didn't even know it was there. And B, if I was a left-wing agitator who just set a fucking car on fire and then caved a policewoman's head in with a brick, you wouldn't send me to prison, would you? I mean, it's really quite astounding. You've got full-blown nonces in England who've been caught. They'll find some bloke who gets took down by a vigilante group and he's just turned up to bum a 12-year-old. And the coppers let him off because they go, he's from another culture. It's not his fault. He's from Bangladesh. He doesn't know you're not meant to slip one into a 12-year-old. So we'll just call it a fine. And then if you happen to be conservative and right-wing and you go to a Football Lads Alliance march and you peacefully protest, they'll go, oh, yeah, that fucking sign's not in a regulation. Well, that sign's 3 inches bigger than it's allowed to be. 8 months for you cunt. I mean, that's the way they do it. James Goddard, was it James Goddard, the guy who got nicked for calling Anna Soubry a Nazi? Remember that one? That was another beauty. I can go on all day if you get me on a rant. That was a beauty. Anna Soubry was basically labelling anybody that voted Brexit as Adolf incarnate. If you supported Brexit, yeah, you're a ridiculous, one-bollocked German dictator with a weird toothbrush mustache and a fucking dodgy side parting. And if you're a Remainer, you're a good person and you should be allowed to, be about your business. So when the general public noticed that Anna Soubry, vile fucking harpy that she is, was kicking off and labelling and slurring normal working class people, they quite rightly did what everybody does and started using her insults against her. And because she was calling everybody a fascist and a Nazi, all they did was sing the song, Soubry is a Nazi, Soubry is a Nazi. And all of a sudden, all the people who were singing the song got fucking arrested on trumped up charges. Like, you couldn't make it up. Or Chris Whitty going for a wander. And then a load of blokes went, oh, there's that fucking daft cunt Whitty. And they went over, how are you doing, bacon face? You know, to give him a bit of shit. Because have you seen a clip of him? He's a bacon-faced cunt, isn't he? He's got, like, crispy red face. They call people a gammon. There's a gammon. Chris Whitty. He's the only actual gammon I've seen, because he properly does look like someone's just drew a face on a fucking strip of Danish and then just glued it to his skull. Bacon-faced Whitty with his fucking beady, piggy little eyes. And some drunk lads seen him and were like, hey, there's Whitty, he's a wanker. Didn't do shit. They didn't beat him up. When I read that they've been arrested, I assumed they attacked him. Like, there's that wanker Chris Whitty, give him a few digs. Turns out they literally went over pissed and were trying to get a selfie with him. They were like, hey, Whitty, here he is, whoa. And that was it. And the next thing, the bloke who did it gets arrested and he loses his fucking job. So the problem is, you don't live in a free country if you don't have the right political opinions. You live in a free country if you've got left-wing woke political opinions. Then you can have a protest. Then you're allowed to be rude and insult people. Then you're allowed to call everyone a Nazi and a fascist. And you can even beat people up, and you can smash a policewoman's face in with a brick, and you can blow a shop up, and you can turn a car over. You can do whatever you want. But you're not allowed to do that if you're not woke. So, well, you don't live in a free country then, do you? Basically. And America, slightly better on the freedom of speech issue. This is now, I'm reeling it back down, trying to bring the Americans back down to earth as well. We are slightly better than the UK on freedom of speech and the ability to be offensive without getting arrested for it. I.e., you do have the legal right to racially abuse someone in the United States of America. And all you will, quite correctly, because I'm not advocating racial abuse. It's fucking stupid. And it's not even insulting, is it, really? It's stupid. It's a collectivist insult. If you want to insult people, you do the personal. I.e., calling me a limey fuck isn't very offensive. Pointing out that I'm a short-assed, hairy, scruffy northern twat is offensive because it's, like, personal. Right? So I've never understood why people go for the race-based abuse. Anyway, it's not offensive. You're literally aiming at about 1 billion people there. When you do a collective insult, it isn't. It just isn't. But you can do that if you're except for Ginger, yeah, fair enough. The blue van man, yeah. All right, that's a collectivist insult that is deeply offensive based on the fact that everybody who's ginger secretly knows that they are detested worldwide. but generally, you're better off sticking with the personal. And in the United States, you're free to do it. In England, you really can be arrested for it. Like, if you go up to Ash Sarkar and say, I hate you, Ash, you smelly, and then use the contraction of the word Pakistani, you can get arrested for it. Which, again, I'm not advocating racial abuse because it's ridiculous and ignorant. But should you be allowed to get arrested for being rude? Ultimately is the question that I would ask. If I was to debate the point with an idiot, half-wit, brains of a fucking flip-flop, left-wing Guardian reader, I would ask them, like, you're telling me that you're the liberal one, right? Do you really think that people should be able to get arrested for being rude? And the answer, of course, if you aren't a moron, is no. No. It's ludicrous to suggest you can be arrested for being rude. Why is it something genuinely offensive? Like, let's say your kid dies in a car accident, and then you got to lay some flowers on the grave, and your nemesis, someone who you picked on at school and have never lived it down, turns up at the gravestone and laughs at you and says, ha ha, I'm glad your kid got twatted by a fucking double-decker. Something like that's not illegal because you're just being rude as fuck. But randomly calling Ash Sarkar a scruffy, smelly, abbreviated version of Pakistani, you can go to jail for it. Is that liberal? Is that a liberal position? Police what you say, state mandated politeness. You're not allowed to be rude to someone. I mean, on the face of it, it's ludicrous. Hate speech has no definition. Hate speech is, I don't like what you said and I'm in a position of authority. I'm a free speech absolutist on that, because I don't see the big issue with being rude. You're allowed to insult me and I'm allowed to insult you. The idea that you can pick one thing and say, oh yeah, well, you're not insulting them. You're allowed to insult the size of the feet and the size of the nose and the state of the teeth and the colour of the hair and the size of their ass, but you're not allowed to insult the country they come from. Unless you're from like Ireland or Scotland or England or Wales, you can insult that country. And you can insult them if they're German or French, but you can't insult them if they're Mexican. And you can't insult them if they're Pakistani. It doesn't even make any sense. If you think of it in such black and white terms, it's so inherently illogical that you can see without even thinking about it that it shouldn't be a thing. Should it? Because it doesn't make sense. If you could even just draw a line in the sand and say you're not allowed to insult someone's nationality, maybe you could make the case for it, but you can't, can you? Because they're allowed to call you a white, British fucking scum, degenerate vermin, dog, rat, weasel, whatever they want. But if you go anywhere near any of it with them, if they're from a not protected country, i.e. anywhere that's not in the Western world, you'll just get nicked straight away. So, of course, it doesn't make any sense on the face of it. Is this pre-recorded? I like to think I'm not the most eloquent man in the world, Vic Yaz, but I think I'd do a better job of it if it was pre-recorded, right? Anyway, so as I've said, laughable and preposterous on the face of it. And I don't know why we started talking about that. I'm assuming it was one of you twats in the chat. So let's do some news, shall we? This is what I wanted to talk about. The main story of the day on the BBC. This was the top story on the BBC homepage, right? How Trump's allies stoked Brazil's Congress attack. Like he's some sort of ginger fucking orange wizard. And even though he's not the president of America anymore, right? I mean, it'd be a stretch if he was still the president, wouldn't it? If you get civil unrest in a foreign country, thousands of miles away from his home address, it'd be a bit weird for someone to say, oh yeah, that's President Obama's fault or whatever. Do you know what I mean? If there's a riot in fucking Argentina, it'd be a bit weird to go, oh yeah, that's Joe Biden's fault, that. But amazingly, probably because he's a ratings winner, the BBC is somehow blaming the Congress attack on Trump and his mates. And it's just the jamming of 10,000 square pegs through round holes. But I'll read you the story. Let's see what Mike Wendling, the US disinformation reporter, has to say about it. I even love his title, US disinformation reporter, because that sounds like he's in the US doing disinformation. Like, that's his job. And again, I even hate the term disinformation because it's just lies. Disinformation is when you say something that they don't like, they call it disinformation. But it can be true, but they still call it disinformation. They don't just, there's no need to use a synonym for lie, is there? Disinformation is a synonym for lie, basically. They've invented that term and popularized it because they can't just use the word lie, because half the time when they throw it at someone, they're not lying. They go, oh, that's disinformation, that. And then you look into it and it's true. What they mean by disinformation is you're presenting some facts in a way that left-wing people don't like. So Mike Wendling is the US disinformation reporter. Can you imagine that as a job title? 10 years ago. What are you? Oh, I'm the lies reporter. What do you do? Oh, I go around reporting on lies. It doesn't even make sense on the face of it. But again, we're in fucking 2023, so the world doesn't make any sense anymore. And there's a bloke there who works for the BBC who was a full-time disinformation reporter. So, I mean, straight away, basically, if you see that job title under anyone's name, you know they're a lying bastard. Mike Wendling, I wouldn't believe Mike Wendling's fucking radio. Is he on Twitter? Let's have a look. I bet you he's a geggy, skinny soy boy. Have a look for Mike Wendling. And there he is. Never even seen him before. Fuck me. A living stereotype. Can you see that? Hang on, I'll have to pop it up in another. I'll have to pop it up in another window. Here he is, Mike Wendling. Look. You knew he'd look like that. You know, like the meme, the soy face meme. That's it. Mike Wendling. Geggy, big beard. Yeah. Cheers, Mike. Cheers. In his fucking plaid shirt. Like, you knew that's what he'd look like. Mike shit for brains. So there he is. He's the fucking disinformation reporter. Yeah, mega trustworthy bloke. Basically, a left-wing sex offender. He's going to tell you about disinformation. He's got 3 girls chained to a radiator in his fucking basement. He needs to nip down there once a day and give them a good seeing to. And he comes back upstairs and writes a story about how everyone else is a liar. Yeah, cheers, mate. Cheers. Love that. So anyway, let's read Mike Wendling's ridiculous lies. The scenes in Brasilia looked eerily similar to events at the US Capitol on 6th of January 2 years ago. And there are deeper connections as well. The whole thing smells, said a guest on Steve Bannon's podcast one day after the first round of voting. The race was heading towards a runoff and the final result was not even close to being known. But Mr. Bannon, as he had done for weeks, spread baseless rumours about electoral fraud. Every time they say baseless rumours, I'm just sitting there going, you mean factually accurate ones, which is why 50% of the fucking country are convinced that there was wide-scale cheating going on. Baseless rumours, right? They keep calling it baseless rumours about the US election. And I read, and it got me a 2-week ban, I read a story by Time magazine where dozens of left-wing activists gloated, essentially, and wrote a lengthy 5-page screed in Time magazine telling you that they cheated. It's just, I mean, I can't make it any more fair than that. They called them baseless rumours, but because they couldn't contain their joy and they wanted to rub it in the face of the people they think are evil, they wrote their own story in Time magazine telling us this is how we cheated, and this is how we cheated, and this is how we cheated, and here's the blokes that we paid off, and here's the media company that we use, and here's the fucking Google and Facebook and Twitter executives that we use, and this is the woman who helped us cheat on this coalition of 4,000 mules who stole a load of fucking ballot boxes. They'll tell you how they cheated. But if you go, whoa, so there was some cheating, they go, fucking hell, what's all these baseless rumours? You told us that you cheated. So can we stop with the baseless rumours? They're not baseless rumours. Baseless rumours, it's like I just come up with it now. You know what I mean? Like there's been no presupposition and there's been no evidence and there's been no talking about it. And I just randomly come up with it now and go, oh, looks like there was a fucking cheating over there. That's not what happened. You lot wrote Time magazine articles about how you cheated. And then we read the articles and went, fuck me, that's mad for cheating. And you went, fucking hell, baseless rumours. I mean, think about it. Just read it yourself. In fact, let me look for it. I'm going to look for it now. I'll get you a link. I can't bring it up because if I do, I'll get instantly banned. But I'll just... there it is. So it's funny because my Google remembered that I looked for it. And it just said, Time magazine brags cheating election. If you just type that in on a Google search, it'll take you to the article. Time magazine brags cheating election. But there's the story. I'll put it in the chat now. Go and read that. Baseless rumours. That is them telling you the myriad ways that they cheated. But apparently it's baseless rumours. Again, they're not coming from me. I'm just reading what they're telling me. The actual headline is The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election. Shadow campaign. All right, so a bit baseless. Shadow campaign. Yeah, all right. Yeah, cheers. Thanks for that. Across several episodes of his podcast and in social media posts, he and his guests stoked up allegations of a stolen election and shadowy forces. See that? Look, shadowy forces. And they wrote a piece called The Shadow Campaign. Couldn't make it up, could you? I'll briefly flash it on the screen because, you know, maybe I can get away with that. This is their headline, what they wrote, right? The left-wing activists. Are you ready? Just a quick look. The secret history of the shadow campaign, right? And then come back to this BBC story where they're saying, oh yeah, I'm the disinformation reporter. It's the baseless rumours, shadowy forces. I'll leave it at that. They called it a shadow campaign, but now they're having a pop. Now it's shadowy forces. Oh, shadowy forces? What are you talking about? That's just a ridiculously conspiracy theory. Who'd use a word like shadowy forces? Who'd do that? Well, yeah, you did. You did. Anyway, he promoted the hashtag Brazilian Spring and continued to encourage opposition even after Mr. Bolsonaro himself appeared to accept the results. Again, even that's worthless, isn't it? Oh, well, even he accepted. Yeah, but we don't know what strings you're pulling behind the curtains to get him to accept it. They're like, oh, if even he accepted it, then it definitely wasn't any cheating going on. Yeah, but you told us there was cheating going on. So who cares what he says? A country, when you have a person like Trump or Bolsonaro, they're just a figurehead. Trump can get bribed by some fucking dirty billionaire autocrat, and then he can come out and say, oh, yeah, I definitely lost the election. I don't care. My critical faculties demand that I don't care what Trump or Bolsonaro or any individual has to say. If I read a Time magazine article by 50 left-wing activists where they brag about cheating, if Trump and Bolsonaro go on TV the next day and say, no, there was definitely no cheating because they've been got to by someone, I don't give a flying fuck what Bolsonaro and Trump have to say. I'm a prisoner of my own fully functioning brain. And when it sees things that make no sense, it forces me. It forces me to look into it. I don't care what Bolsonaro himself has to say. Bannon was the former White House chief strategist and just one of several key allies of Trump who followed the same strategy used to cast doubt on the results of the Yeah, it was all them. Yeah, it was all them. I've never even listened to Steve Bannon's podcast. I just read like mainstream sources in like Time magazine or The Spectator or The Guardian or the BBC. And they'll tell you that they cheated because they want to brag about it. You don't even have to look at right-wing sources. Do you know what I mean? Mainstream sources, The Economist. You'll get twats, arts degree twats from posh parts of fucking America who will happily write puff pieces in The Guardian and The Economist saying, oh yeah, this is how we rallied thousands of people to get them to harvest some fucking ballots. I'm not listening to any right-wing rhetoric. I'm listening to what they're telling me. And my brain's putting it together and saying, oh yeah, looks like there might be some shenanigans going on because they're telling me, not Steve fucking Bannon. I've never listened to Steve Bannon once. Anyway, like what happened on Washington on 6th of January, those false reports and unproven route, fucking hell, false reports, yeah, you told us about it. Shut up. Help fuel a mob that smashed windows and stormed the buildings in an attempt to further their cause. Yeah, Mr. Bannon told his listeners all hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Well, what's that got to do with him? Isn't he just a journalist commentating on it? I.e., he's noticed that there's about 50 million pissed off Brazilians who are angry because they're getting the piss took out of them by ridiculous commies. And he's gone, all hell's going to break loose tomorrow. It's not his fault, is it? He's thousands of miles away from Brazil. Do you think the Brazilians sit there going, I'll tell you what, if some right-wing American doesn't tell me what to feel, I'm not listening. The Brazilians, for fuck's sake, most of them don't even speak English. It's not like he's called Steve Juan or El Banano and he's delivering his podcast in fucking Portuguese, is it? Got nothing to do with it. This big kicks off in Brazil. Although I do like his fictional Brazilian name more than his American one. Good that. So along with other prominent Trump advisors, he was unrepentant, even as footage emerged of widespread destruction in Brazil. Lula, I can't repeat it. YouTube will grab me by the balls. Brazilians know this, he wrote repeatedly on Getter. He called the people who stormed the buildings freedom fighters. Well, all I have to say about that is, because I don't want to go on forever, and I'm going to make a pre-recorded video. Look into it yourselves. If you look into it yourself, you will see that gloating middle-class communists are all over social media telling you how and why they took special measures to make sure that fucking Lula, the criminal communist jailbird, won the election. They'll tell you it's not a conspiracy theory. Just go and find some articles that they write and read them, and you can find out what went on. You don't need to think that 100 million Portuguese speakers are pissed off because fucking Trump's mate is doing a shitty podcast that hardly anybody listens to, and certainly nobody in Brazil listens to. So just do your own reading and come to your own conclusions. And if you don't understand that they're hiding in plain sight and all of this information is freely available on open sources, and it isn't conspiracy theorists, it's them telling you how they did it, I don't know what to tell you. You're obviously a fucking maniac. All right? And I'm going to call it early today because I have got shit to do. Right? I'll be back tomorrow, though, and I haven't got anything on tomorrow. So I'll be back at 7, right? 7 p.m. Thanks for everyone for liking and sharing my Prince Harry video. That's proved popular. They all do. Women love slagging off Meghan Markle. They love it. Anytime I make a video taking the piss out of me again, Mardy arse, Snail Trail, Spunk Trumpet, Sussex, they fucking love it. They love it. So thanks to that, I just want to say, ladies, please, you can't have a pop at men about misogyny on the internet. Seriously, 80% of the shit that she gets, it's got to be from other women, because I love it. Like, some of the comments make me howl laughing, and they're always off women when it comes to Meghan Markle. She is the one they love to hate. She's like a fucking insult magnet. So, yeah, that's brilliant. I'll make another one and I'll edit that, and I'll see you all at 7 p.m. tomorrow. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Toodle pip. See you later.